Hi there everyone, Soul Super 17 here. Let me hear like usual. I don't know this picture, not be a video. Okay. Sorry for not making a video for the past like 2 to maybe 3 days. One was due to laziness, I think, slash tired. I just because of because taking care of the fire, heat was making me drowsy. So yeah. Um, then basically I was gonna make it Monday. Yeah, Monday. Monday night, I was not feeling so well. I was feeling like crap. My body had like these aches, but like anytime you moved, it's basically hurt a little. Not like hurt. I mean like you just feel like you moved. It just like was a little bit of irritation, and then chills. Um, Stomach was hurt. Well, something was hurting me. Stomach, I think. Yeah, stomach, and I was just not feeling good Monday night into Tuesday, and Tuesday I woke up and I was gonna basically try and make the what if. I fell asleep a lot. Like, I woke up, like, I slept for like an hour at one point. I was feeling a little bit better. I basically was up for like 2 hours or something, and then somewhere around like 4 something, I, I fell asleep from 4 to 8. Then went back to sleep from 8 to 12, and I've been up for about 2 hours, fully awake. It's 2 something right now, so I thought, why not make this and upload it, and then, yeah. So, here's the thing. There is going to be something's happening in this one. It's just basically getting the same blade, the Hestia blade, but it's going to be called something. I'm not going to call it that. It is going to be called something else. I just don't know what. For right now, I did not think of the name, but I will probably think of it something later. I'll probably call it just Infinite Dagger. Probably. I don't know, I just think of the generic name that's simplified. So yeah, hope you guys will basically like this part, and let's get into it. So, we go off to where Freya is. Basically, she's at the top of back of the tower with an amusement, look on her face. As Otar, remember his name, because I also have his name, shown, basically is looking at Freya while she's sitting down. He basically goes, Goddess Freya, why is it that you basically told me not to kill him? The new arrival. Which she goes, oh, simple, Otar. You may not even stand a chance, and killing him may be actually a little more difficult than you think. Which he would not be saying nothing, because Freya probably, most likely would have at least said some stuff. Just like how unpredictability may be, a factor in this, in this meeting. So basically, though, he says, but still, even though he is unkillable at the moment, what he said to you was a threat to all gods and goddesses here. Which she just chuckles and be like, yes, yes, I know, but to be quite frank and fair, he may be actually able to do so. Which Otar's eyes are widened. And then she basically, before he can even say anything, he goes like, maybe I should make him try to become a being that could slay gods. Just for the fun of it. I mean, his basically potential is almost rival to Belle's. Which, basically, Otar will like, Goddess, are you sure about that? Every other god would basically be afraid. And she goes, well, yes. And besides, the gods that basically are putting him through all this may also try to come down and basically fight him. Basically, was like, so wait, you're just... Yes, I'm making him to basically be a counter to gods. If I want to, at least. And besides, he may do so on his own accord. Just so he basically can make a threat to me. Basically, that's not really a threat, more of a promise. Which she just gets up and she walks away from, well, no, not walks away, she walks basically towards Otar, past him, basically, and he just basically says, "You're planning this, goddess. You want him to get strong enough, basically, to kill gods." In which she basically stops at the door and she goes, "Maybe. Besides, a potential like his cannot be wasted. But, like, basically all the monsters we have are not suitable enough for him. So I'm gonna go back to those other gods. And you, Otar, go back to train the Minotaur for Bel. He may actually help him train a bit." Which, basically, he just says, "Yes, goddess." So basically she leaves and Otar just says, "Even though I do not judge my goddess's decisions, this mortal could become a god? A god slayer?" What type of, basically, person does she expect him to be? So he basically walks away, out of the room. It's back with me, basically Albedo, Norble, or Nabe, but yeah, back with Nabe and Shoutir. I just sneeze, be like, "Huh? Is someone talking about me?" Which, basically, Albedo, like, "Who'll be talking to about you?" It was like, "Freya." Which, basically, she thinks about it and be like, "True." Basically, Nabe's like, "Do you think she's basically worried about your threat?" Shoutir basically interrupts and goes like, "Probably not. Way more interested in his threat than anything else." And I'm like, and then I just kind of sigh and I'll be like, "True, she probably's planning something, probably to make me become what I said I could become." Which, basically, I bet like, "So do you think that was a good reason to basically threaten her?" He was like, "To be fair, she's planning to basically use a Minotaur to basically fight Bel, to basically at least help him level up to level 2. Which basically everyone everyone who's about to say something just basically stops and think for a minute, and they say, "True." And he goes, "Besides, I do have some weapons. In the gates of Babylon, at least. There's some basically Godslayer weapons, or at least things that basically can prevent immortality from kicking in." Which, basically, Shoutir's like, "Really? Is there anything else about that, Master?" I'm like looking at her like, "Master?" She goes, "Sorry. Familiar." So, I mean, basically became a familiar, call you Master, and I go like, just sigh and be like, "Don't call me Master. I'm still gonna call you Shoutir. So just call me Zero. Or whatever makes you feel comfortable." Yeah, I have a few things I basically could kill a god or goddess. Which Albedo is like, "Really? Can you please explain?" And he goes like, I just look at her like, "Okay, first off, no. Second off, when I do get get that power, I'll tell you." She was, "Sorry, even though you're part of my Purage, don't trust you that much. You're still loyal to Ainz." She basically looks at me with a basically blank expression. It goes like, "Yes, yes I am." And like, I just kind of just sigh, be like, "Well, it doesn't really matter." Anyways, it's been 20 minutes, time to wake up Hestia. So when I'm about to do something, Nabe's like, "Wait, would you tell me?" He's like, "Would you basically tell Ainz this?" She nods no. I'm like, "Seriously? Why?" She goes, "You're basically letting me basically tell every information to Ainz. Why do I need to tell him about you?" I'm like, I think about it for a few minutes. I'm like, to usually help him to, get better information on me and stuff. Maybe even try to make him actually try to kill me. I mean, isn't that what Demirj wants? Which basically Norble, Albedo, Shoutir just look at each other and then look back at me and just nod. Demirj basically Shoutir says Demirj wants to, but Narble's like, "But so far you haven't shown no aggression towards us. And me and Shoutir here are basically supposed to be by your side to be by your side and basically help you or serve you. Whatever you want, basically." I'm like, "Alright, makes sense." And I bet here just sort of babysit to make sure you two don't get into any situations that are troublesome. Which basically they both nod. Which I just say, well, I mean, at least that's good for something. Which, I mean, yeah, Tears like, true. Which I was like, what do you mean good for something? Like, to be fair, you would be an excellent, basically, leader when I'm not around for them. And basically give them orders and help them out. Which is the fact is, your loyalty to Ainz is admirable, but for basically you to actually get a better understanding of what situation you're in at the moment, you have to look past that and actually look about it from a different angle. Which she basically goes like, what do you mean? He goes like, didn't Einstein know his isekai? Right in front of you. Which she looks at me for a few minutes and then doesn't say nothing. I'm trying to think about it, which I'm like, okay, since she's not paying attention, I think in my head, as I basically all of a sudden water comes over Hestia's basically head and it just falls right on her. She basically like, huh? What's going on? As I'm like, greetings, goddess! Welcome back to the land of the wake. Well, yeah, land the waking, or wake up, whatever you want to call it. She's like, okay, so it wasn't a dream. You are here. And you're basically allies. I'm like, yep. So, why are you here besides becoming part of my familia? Just that. I mean, what else do I need? She goes, huh? He goes, one, you really don't have that many members. Two, you can always use the help for extra, basically, phallus, whatever the money currency here is. And, well, yeah, that's two. And three, I can always help Belle. So she just decides, like, that's your only reasoning? He goes, yep, pretty much. Oh, and I don't want to join any other familia because, honest and truth, ooh, I like this one better. Has a lot more of a homey feeling to it. Which she just kind of just sighs a bit, but then smiles. She goes like, well now, wait till basically Belle comes back to introduce all of you too, and then we can basically go to the adventure hall and get you all registered. I'm like, nice. So, quick question. She goes, do you think basically not Hestia, do you think basically Hephaestus will make me a blade? She goes, what type of blade? I just look at her and I basically kind of just sigh, be like, the same blade Belle has, which her basically she blinks and then eyes wide. She goes, how do you? And I'm like, didn't basically Freya tell you all the gods here? Basically she basically has a flashback where Freya is basically explaining it like, greetings, fellow gods and goddesses. I have a suggestion, basically. How about we basically have someone from a different world to come here, where he has knowledge of basically anything that he knows of can become his power. So, he may have a few things that we do not know of, and it'll be an interesting way to see an adventurer like him will be here. So, who's ready to see someone like that come here and give everyone else an interesting show? Basically, every god and goddess was basically just looking at her as one of them just says, Freya, what do you mean, like, has anything he knows is his power? She goes, oh, quite simple. This mortal was basically brought from his world into another world, like, given the power to basically gain anything he has. As in, basically, she shows what I've done. Because these powers he basically knows of. And I do have a list of what basically they're from, as basically she basically tells them, and then basically I think another god will be like, gods be like, does he have anything from this world? Which she goes, oh yes, I'm not gonna say who, but he does have certain powers or skills based off of basically someone here. So it'll be interesting to see that, don't you all think? He may even get his own type of skills that we did not know of. As basically all the gods and goddesses are just looking at each other, just nodding. So they basically approved of it. So yeah. And so, Hestia just eyes wide. She goes, "You have bell skills," and I'm like, "Yes." Well, it's only getting my own ones, but yeah, I do. She goes, "How?" As I literally just take out the manga and basically just give her to it. Huh? What is this? He goes like, Damanchi. That's the name of it, or basically the English version of name of it is. Yeah, I'm not gonna say, but it's just like actually nah, fudge it. How not to pick up girls in a dungeon, or something like that. I haven't really read. I just keep on saying Damanchi. But she just looks at me like, "How can you not?" He goes, "Wait, they say you just keep on saying Damanchi." He goes like, "Yeah." Probably something like, "Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon?" Basically, just a normal adventurer. Basically, wants to become a hero and such, and basically save a girl and such, and blah 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 blah. We all get the normal gist of it. Where she basically just kind of looking at it, and she sees Belle. She basically like, "Is this huh?" I'm like, "Listen, before you freak out, this world can be totally different from the manga and something called an anime. All right." She goes, "Anime?" It goes, "I'll show you one later. For right now, all you have to understand this." As I walk over to her, put my hand on her shoulder, like, "Your resistance matters. Everything basically you've done matters. This is its own dimension." Oh, yes, others. Makes sense. I mean, basically she goes like, "So, where you're from, before you were brought to the world you came from, this was basically just, yeah, came from someone's mind, and in actuality, this may have been born, the world may have been born first, and then it just basically took the events from here, and then, you know, it may have been, this world was born first, basically, before before basically the gods came down." So she goes, "Oh, so Pacific events may be different. Some things may be added, some things may be changed, but normally since I'm here, this doesn't even matter." As I basically take the book, throw it back in the gate of Babylon. She goes, "Huh?" Freya. She goes, "You had a meeting." Like, "Yep, I threatened her." She just looks at me, basically like, "You threatened Freya?" I'm like, "Yes." For right now, though, let's just be happy she basically isn't going to try to retaliate. Which she's like, okay. So basically, Belle, comes back because we all hear, "Goddess, I'm back," basically. As when Belle comes down, he sees Hestia, me, Shoutier, Albedo, and Narble. He was like, "Goddess? Who are these?" Goes like, "Who are these people?" They say, not Freya, but Hestia basically goes like, "Belle, these are new members of the Hestia Familia." He's like, "Oh, wait, we actually got new members?" I'm like, "Yep." And, Hestia, quick question. She goes, "Hmm? Do you want me to basically expand the place a little bit because there's not many room for us?" She goes, "You can do that?" Oh, wait, never mind. You can. Anyway, I just nod. So she goes, "Alright, I'll explain to Belle while you're basically working." I'm like, "Great. Shoptier, Albedo, Norbrel, basically you can give me some advice on what you guys want in your rooms, and I will basically try to put it there." Alright? Basically, they just nod. So in a sense, I basically look at a wall that has nothing there. Well, I go back to the wall I was looking at, and I literally just clap my hands and basically put it on the wall, as then it just expands. Basically into making a corridor. Wait, not a corridor, a hallway. Which Belle's like, "Goddess? How does he?" She goes, "I'll explain later." Well, I'll explain right now. So she kind of explains about Freya, basically, telling about a adventurer that is from a different world, basically, is the gods. These different gods are basically gonna do some things to that world because of him and how he was basically brought to that world. Meanwhile, me, I'm working on, well, set rooms and such, making different areas, and basically, yeah, it's just, Avado told me what type of stuff she wants in her room, and I basically put it there, along with Shaktir and Narbrol, and me just made my own stuff. Basically made Belle a room and such, and basically, since Hestia has her own bed. So yeah. So they start coming back, and I just look at Belle, be like, "Sup? Oh yeah, Hestia. Everything's done. The rooms are done, and you have your own bed, which is over there in the middle, like always." She goes, "Wait, Belle has his own room?" I'm like, "Yep." I just look at her with a cheeky grin. She basically looks at me like, "I hate you." I just kind of just chuckle. Which I look at Belle, I'm like, "So, you got the rundown?" He just nods, but you're from a different world. I'm like, "Uh-huh." "So you have these different powers?" "Yeah, pretty much." It was like, "That's so awesome. They're not skills. They're not even basically from this world." And I basically just kind of like was basically bunk his head, like, "Don't go all fanboy mode." He was fanboy. He was like, "Yeah, overreacting basically." Look, just because I have these powers doesn't mean I'm gonna use them so much in basically fighting. I mean, technically I can probably use a couple of, well, most of my powers, but still. He's like, "Alright, anyways, Hestia's basically, guys, Hestia said we're basically going to go to the Adventure Hall to introduce you to basically them and try to get registered. I do recommend someone because she's, oh, you mean Edna? Which you see, huh? Oh, Edna, yeah. Edna. So, I'm basically kind of saying that, which I was like, yeah, just how did you. You forgot, did you, for a minute? Yeah. Bell just rose the back of his head, which basically, Beto does basically appear along with Shaltir and Narble, as I just kind of sigh, be like, "So, Hestia, do you mind basically they tell you what they really are?" Where she goes, which basically Belle and Hestia just look at me, but then Hestia will be like, "Well, they're from your, basically the world that you came from before you were, let's just say my new home dimension." She goes, "Alright, your new home dimension." I'm like, "Yeah, they're not technically human," which basically Hestia is like, "Okay, I kind of figure as much, but at the same time, but." He goes, "Huh? No human has that much high of a status. Especially her." She posts Beto, which Beto is like, "Thank you," and what? She just sighs, and basically I'm like, "Yeah, well, here's the thing. Shaltir's a vampire. Narble is basically shapeshifter. And basically, I just it goes over to the amulet. Well, the choker that has a little um, charm you say on it. As I would say, push it, and then Abel's features shown. It goes like demon, aka succubus, and then just press it again, and the horns and the wings disappear. Which basically just Hestia is just looking at us, feel like, "Interesting group you have," and like Alberto's just the babysitter. She goes, "Huh?" To make sure I don't basically get these two as I point to Narble and Shoutir in danger in situations. She goes, she just looks at me like, "For some reason I can tell you're gonna have that a lot here." Like, okay, to be fair, I try not to. And why does it always think that? Which, basically, everyone just shrugs. But anyways, she goes, "Anyways, let's go into the adventure hall." So yeah, we're just all leaving. We do go to where all the gods and goddesses are that basically are trying to discuss what to bring to the Overlord world while I'm gone. So, in a sense, yeah. We do basically have just Freya walking past all of them. She sees Chaos just basically looking at the screen, just smiling. You go like, so much chaos is going to happen because of him. I already can tell. I wonder if he can get stronger and become basically way more powerful than me someday. That would be kind of interesting to find out. Which then Freya just kind of chuckles at that. She basically goes over to Sun Jin Woo, basically, and she goes, "Jin?" He just looks at Freya, and he just sighs like, "Freya, what do you want?" She goes, "Oh, is it that obvious?" He just sighs, you're like, "Yes, it is." "No, I'm not going on a date with you." She goes, "No, not that." I wonder if you could have the Plague Monarch to basically open a gate on one of the floors. Not relative easy to get to, but not very hard. Which basically, Sun Jin Woo, just Sun Jin Woo basically looks at her with an eyebrow raised. And then he kind of gets the picture. He goes, "Oh, you want to basically have our mutual friend to basically get stronger. But you want it to basically be where he can almost access the god power that he has." Which she just nods. She goes, "Yes. I don't know which one he may take on first. I only know he probably has multiple different versions of it, but still. It'll be quite amazing to see which one he takes on." In which he just sighs me like, "Listen, I'll do this because I was basically planning on which one to do, but I'm not going to make it where adventurers are going to find this gate. And they're only going to be in that area." She basically just nods and be like, "Oh, I'll talk to basically Hades and we'll see if we can make an area for them. Enough times where basically adventurers will be coming around." Which basically he just sighs and then he gets out Biru and tells him to get the Plague Monarch. Which he just basically does. So, while they're talking, he'd be like, "I basically give her enough resources to the point where she doesn't have to basically have her basically monsters to feed on humans." In which she just kind of nods, be like, "That'll be suitable enough. At least the most I can ask for is that." In which basically when Biru comes back with the Plague Monarch, she goes, "Sun Jin Woo." She goes, "Shut up, Monarch. What do you need of me?" Which basically Jin just says, "Open a portal for one of your basically a monster can come into the dungeon after Freya gives a location for it." Which she's just looking at basically Freya. She goes, "Are you sure? Most of them basically, my monsters will basically destroy a floor area or surroundings." And when she goes, "Oh, don't worry. I basically will talk to Hades about a certain location where not many people are around. Or, well, they can be at a little bit of peace and quiet for a bit, to where they can get enough forces or basically soldiers around." She goes, which basically Sun Jin Woo just says, "You're hoping for the ants." She goes, "Maybe. Your Biru seems to be a strong one." In which basically the Plague Monarch basically just says she'll basically have a stronger version of Biru if that does happen. But still, she will have basically to tweak things a few here and there to where they will just, have enough resources and such, which Jin says he'll provide it. Which the Plague Monarch thanks him for that. So basically she leaves and such, and he goes, "Happy, Freya?" She goes, "Yes, thank you." Which he just sighs and be like, "Let's hope he uses that key then." She goes, "Oh, you mean the key you provided him?" He just says, "How? Oh, you watched the recordings, did you?" She goes, "Maybe." And then she's walking away. He basically Jin thinks, "Freya, you're one cunning goddess. Even basically making things happen when they don't need to happen for your own amusement. I wonder, what is your interest in Zero?" So, basically, when me, Abedo, Shoutir, Narble, Hestia, and Belle arrive at the Adventure Hall, basically Edna is there. But she goes, "Belle, why are you here?" He goes, "Oh, hi Edna. These are new, basically members of the Hestia Familia." Which, I'm just waving hi at her. When she goes, "Oh, hello there." Basically, Lady Hestia, are you sure about these people? Which I'm just kind of looking at her strangely, which basically she goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I can tell them they're very strong, and they, well, I don't want to be quite rude, but they seem very different." And I'm like, oh. I just have a little grin and think to myself, So she can already tell by basically a human from a monster, or a human from a different type of species. Which basically, I was about to say something, but then I put my hand up to stop her. And I basically look at Edna, I'm like, well then, if I'm basically, guide, well, adventure guide, I can basically explain that all very simple. But I do think you already have some paperwork from Lady Freya that all the gods approve of someone to come here along with his allies. Which her eyes wide. She was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." She bows, and I just said, "You don't need to bow to me as an apology. It's fine. Everyone makes mistakes." And I didn't. And I actually thought Freya wouldn't actually do that. She goes, "No, it's fine. No." She goes, "No, I need to apologize, but yes, Lady Freya did come by, and I asked her why she's doing this. All she said was because we don't want to have our new adventurer that comes here to be known as an outcast." Or to look at him differently. Now do we? As said, the adventurer guild just nodded to her. As I just like think to myself, I really don't like Freya that much, but at the same time, she knows how to get things done. So, I just kind of looking at basically, and I'm like, so, how do we do this? She goes, you just have to fill out some paperwork, and I do need to see your levels. Like, alright then, can you do my companions here first, then me? Well, she just nods. So we basically fill out the paperwork. She looks at Shoutir, Albedo's, and Norble's, and she was actually kind of shocked with Albedo's endurance stat. And she couldn't believe it and such, and then, yeah, she was then shocked all around, including my stats, too. So she's like, well, Lady Freya did say you would be a unique type of people. So, I basically kind of just chuckle. So basically we do get it out and, get the paperwork done and finished. She goes, well, that's all. Well, if you ever need some help, just come over here and talk to me or anyone here. Basically, that's also where you can basically get your monster gems for Phallus over there. And basically, I would say to recommend you all to, if you're going to go solo, probably to basically almost to the middle floor, at least level basically 11, which basically I'm like, huh. So only level 2s can go down to the middle floors, but she does not. And she goes, I'm so sorry if that may be some inconvenience. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. But do know, though, I may not listen to them, to the rules. She was, but you... I'm like, I may die, which I think to myself, probably impossible, but I'm pretty quick. Which she's just like, what do you mean pretty quick? Like, oh, I'm pretty quick to run away, if needed. Which everyone just basically... I bet Shoutir and Normal just look at me like, really? You're lying? Which basically Belle and Hestia... Well, Hestia knows I'm lying. Belle sort of does. Just Edna doesn't. So, she goes, oh, I see. But, you can go with a whole type group, basically, to the middle floor as a party, if needed. I'm like, huh. Alright then. Well, thank you, this adventure guide, Edna. We'll see you around. As I said, I'm just kind of walking away with, everyone else. So, when we get outside the adventure hall, basically, Hestia like, so you won't follow the rules of the Adventurer Guild. I'm like, nope, not really much. But for right now, though, a bit off, we basically get the whole entire dungeon map out. So that way we know, since it doesn't seem like the dungeon basically changes, does it? She goes, not really, but still. Why map it out? Like, maybe to have a little, how should I say, safe areas besides what they have in the dungeon. Fortify some stuff so that way no one really would know about besides Hestia's familia. And then, make a little bit of, rest, basically, so that way we can restock on supplies and such, while no one else knows. Which she was like, that's kind of mean, and I just kind of shrugged, like, wait, not me. She was like, that's kind of strange to think about. Like, I just shrugged, like, no one really thought of basically putting them in the dungeon. And besides, I think it's hard to basically freaking Hephaestus about, like, the blade that Belle has. Which, basically, he goes, huh? The blade Hestia gave you. He goes, oh! Why is that? He was like, certain reasons. Which I'm thinking to myself, technically it will work better with me because of your skills and such, but still. So, basically, Hestia just nods at that. She goes, alright, I'll show you the way, well, I'll basically show you and Belle and your friends here the Hephaestus Familia. So I just nod thank you, and we just kind of go to it, and then we ask for Hephaestus, which she peers, and like, so who wants to talk to me? And I'm like, me. In private at least, or with my companions here, along with Hestia, as basically she looks over at Hestia, and Hestia's giving her a look, but she's saying, please just go along with it. Which she goes like, alright then. She basically asks about Belle, which Belle just says, actually, I do need to go. I have to go buy something that Lily suggested. Which basically, which then Hestia goes like, then why didn't you tell me? He was like, I kind of forgot since we had new people in the Familia. Which, basically, she just chuckles and goes like, oh, Belle. Well, so basically he leaves, and when we go into her office, basically I would basically let Hestia sit down, and she goes, so, what do you need of me? And she's looking at me. He goes, well, she looks at me and basically goes, 0. He goes, well then, 0, what do you need? I just sigh, be like, look, to get this short and sweet, I'm the one that Freya talked about. Which, her eyes widen, and then she goes, I see. So, you're the one from a different dimension. And I'm like, yeah. Isn't there basically you have something called a Gates of Babylon that can basically make any weapon? I'm like, true. Well, it actually had a weapon stored there of humanity. But the fact is, a god made the weapon that I want, even if her powers are sealed. When she's just looking at me with a curious, stare, I'm like, I want you basically to make me the same blade as Belle. The one that basically it grows with him. She goes, you do realize if anyone finds out, if anyone finds out you make it, it'd be an insult to you, yada yada yada. Look, right now, I do need a similar blade for reasons. Just know that. Which, basically, she goes, really? You do need it. For what reason? About that I cannot be known. I'm like, simple speak. Different dimensions. You never know. She doesn't follow. I'm like, just sigh, but like, never mind. Look, I'll pay whatever amount that is needed. Alright? And you probably basically work it off. I go down to lower floors. Where she's just looking at me. She goes, are you really planning to just, if I make the blade for you, to go down to the lower floors to get basically phallus as much as you can quickly? As I just look at her, just nod. She goes, alright, I'll make you the blade, but you owe me a favor. I'm like, really? She goes, yeah, that's all. I really don't mind making it for you. You want it from this world, and to be fair, you're gonna need as much help as you can get. So let's just say, yeah, a favor is all I need. So basically, she does go and the whole entire her own little forge area comes open. She goes like, by the way, do you know how to basically make a blade? He was like, I have basically my own forge back from my own dimension, and got a few skills in it. Basically, I do basically grab the blade on my side. Basically, like, it just changes, into the mind control blade, where she just looks at it, and she goes, huh, how do you make this? He was like, well, merge. It's basically a combination between a spirit slash mind control magic. It looks like a spirit because it could be Sifu, I thought, and it's mind control magic, so I just made it to a blade where it has the same effect as the magic. Anyone I hit with it basically just become mind control and listens to me. She's just looking at me like, it's well crafted. Huh. First time making a blade like this? He was like, yeah. She basically I just have it change into Zangetsu, but then I had to change to Rebellion, then I have it change to basically Yamato, which I just put at the side. She goes, a strange blade. You're like, other gods basically did some stuff to my original, well, one of my blades. She just nods. So, we do work on the actual, you know, blade that Belle has. It didn't really take that long since I basically made Shout clones and, it helped. Which basically Hephaestus was actually kind of a little bit surprised, but then, you know, actually saying things to herself, this actually going to take less time then. So yeah, basically she also has Hestia help out, and at the end of it, Hestia does everything she does, like she did in canon with Belle, and then she, basically, she basically put it in a sheath, and then when I unsheath it, and then Hestia picks her finger, then, does the whole entire status on my back, just so it'd be, configured with it, with my, stats. I just sigh. Basically, I'm like, is it done? She goes, yep, should be. Huh, seems like your basically stats went up a little bit. I'm like, huh? Seriously? She goes, yeah. It may be due to the other powers you have slowly configuring. I'm like, that's whatever, right? She does not, basically. So, I'm not gonna say what, but yeah. So, after that, I basically kind of like wonder. Like, I basically grab Yamato, I'm like, hey Zangetsu, do you basically, know about the runes slash little markers or whatever they use to basically to make you be able to switch into, combine each blade together? Which he goes, yeah, just get basically a little chisel, and basically do that with the one that you got from Sun Jin Woo. I'm just nodding. Well, from basically the soul leveling system. Basically, the Buruk B serpent. So, yeah, that's what I do. I take that dagger out and do the little markers that I basically was told by Zangetsu. And then all of a sudden, merged it together with the actual blade that Hephaestus made, which they said we're just looking at me, and then it just kind of just changes into it. I'm like, cool, actually worked. So basically, let's just say this: the gods that are basically watching over me is like, okay, to be fair, we should have realized Zangetsu was gonna do that, and we actually told Zangetsu it, so it made some sense. I mean, yeah, so we're not gonna say that's bullshit, right? They just not know. So basically, Luna just arrived when she basically saw that. She goes, well, at least basically he has another blade. Well, he can always switch out to different blades to help out. So basically, though, when I switch back to the Borok B Serpent blade, I do see the markers on it too. I'm like, holy cow! So this actually can basically get more stronger and more with my stats now? Sweet! Basically, as I switch back to basically, the blade Hephaestus made, she goes, so, well, you can call that blade now, and you're not going to react. She goes, nope, I'm not reacting to that. You're from a different dimension with other gods watching over you. Of course you're going to have some stuff I don't know about. I'm just called Infinite Blade. Infinite? It goes, it infinitely grows. Sort of sweet. She just chuckles. So, basically I just look at Hestia and everyone else, I'm like, you guys okay? They just kind of just sigh, be like, well, Avedo, Shalatir, Narble, just sigh, like, this is going to happen a lot more when you're around, isn't it? And I just nod. Hestia be like, okay, yeah, I'm the same thing with Hephaestus, I'm not going to react to it. So, yeah. after that, I do think Hephaestus, she basically just says, remember, any favor I ask in the future, I just put my thumb up and be like, you got it. So yeah, we just technically leave. We go back to basically the Hestia Familia, and it just kind of like, Belle's there. Basically goes like, oh, you guys are back. I'm like, yep. Basically, Belle asks, what did you guys needed, you know, from there, and I just say, just a new blade. He goes, really? He goes, yeah. Anyways, so should we talk about about a few things that are gonna be changing? Which Belle just looks at me curiously, which Hestia does realize. She goes, oh, yeah, since there's more people in the guild, in the Familia, and just nod. So everyone takes a seat and such. I'm like, so here's the thing. For now, I think Belle should basically do his normal thing, and me, Albedo, Shoutier, and Nabe should basically do our own, basically party, which basically has to like, why not bring Belle? Like, he needs experience, and basically we don't. And he has more experience than us, so we should basically do our own thing since we're level 1, like him. But he has more experience in the dungeon than us. Until then, we get enough experience, we won't join him. But after we do, well, when we do join up, we can go to the lower floors. How's that? Which, basically, Belle's like, are you sure? I don't mind helping you guys. And I just nod, basically like, it's fine. What do you think, Albedo, Norble, Nabe, Shoutier? We should go like, Shoutier be like, well, technically that sounds like a good idea. Norble says, it does basically help us more then, because we do get more, basically, phallus here, which Albedo just says, this sounds like a solid plan, but when will we basically meet up with him? We're like, when he goes to the lower floors. I don't know when or how long it's going to take us to get to level 2, but in a sense, if we get to the lower floors, we may actually be able to get to level 2 soon. Which basically they do not. And so basically Belle's like, well, let me introduce you to Lily then. After we basically have dinner and such. I'm like, alright. Basically, I just look, I can look at Albedo and Shoutier and Norble, and then basically, like, anyways, let me just talk to to basically Albedo, Shoutier, and Norble real quick. Basically, Belle and basically Hestia just nod. So basically, we do go our way, into the room, basically, I made, mine, and then they're like, what do you need to talk about? Basically, I'm like, listen, I don't know how the leveling system's going to work for us very well. We may have to fight stronger monsters, basically boss monsters, to get to level 2. And also, don't mind the food here. Like, Belle just recently became better, and they are getting like a lot more phallus here, the coins. So in a sense, it's going to be a little more different. Which they do nod, basically. I'll go like, we understand the situation. You don't have to tell us that. I'm like, yeah, sorry. And I really just don't want to basically make a lot of trouble here. We're shouting to be like, no offense, Zero. You basically are a being that has power that basically gods are taking notice of. You are basically going to cause trouble no matter what you do. You're like, true. Also, I don't want you guys to be rude. As I just, give them a blank stare, which they just, like, nodding. Like, understandable. We don't really like humans that much. Basically, Nabe says. So, after that, basically, we leave the room and such. We do have dinner, and then we do, sleep and such. So, in a sense, what happens next is Belle, basically bring us to basically Lily. Lily was surprised that, basically to see new people in the familia, but we tell her that we're just going to be doing our own thing while they do their own. So yeah, so basically though, at least Lily would basically say she'll show us around real quick before going to the dungeon with Master Bell. So we do see different item shops, different places, basically to get supplies and stuff. And Belle will actually, before going to the dungeon, show us a place that we can get some actually better armor if needed. I mean, I do have my armor on, but I do kind of think, it'd be kind of good to get some armor here. Right now, I think my armor, I basically need to see if my armor, the Overlord, will actually help. But I look over at Beto, Shaltir, Narble, and Nave, and just kind of just decide, like, we need to get some money first before anything else. Before they can buy some armor and weapons. Oh, wait. So basically, though, when we leave, I just look at Beto like, hey, did Hines give you guys any weapons? Which, basically, Abel just nods. So, basically, Nave has her sword, Shaltir has an axe, just a regular one, and basically Shaltir, she basically says she wouldn't mind having her basically umbrella to as a weapon, but she has a spear. I'm like, alright, so I'll keep on the daggers, arrows, and swords then. Basically, they all nod. So in a sense, basically, Belle, goes in the dungeon along with us. He basically says, basically the pathway's going down the same. So we'll be going ahead, and then you guys can basically wait. I just kind of decide, be like, alright. So, yeah, Belle goes on ahead. A couple minutes pass. I'm like, that should be good enough time. Which basically, they nod. So, we do go and fight monsters and basically kill a couple of them. In a sense, though, what happens is this. Right when we basically get to a certain floor, like floor, I don't know, like 10, something weird happens. Which basically, I'm like, okay, guys, we're doing pretty good. Is anyone tired? Anyone hurt? Everyone, well, Albedo, Chartier, and Narble just not no. Well, Nave/Narble. No one's hurt or basically tired. I was like, great. And then, well, all of a sudden, the solo leveling inventory system pops up. I'm like, huh? Wait, what's going? As in, all of a sudden, the key basically comes out of it and basically appears right in basically a front of basically me. And I'm like, okay, that is new. What the heck is going? As when it basically opens, basically the gate, it just there's like basically air current basically air current going into the gate. Basically like everything's being sucked in. As I'm like, oh, I'm trying basically to I'm just standing still as I'm thinking, okay, this is not happening, right? This can't be happening. Is Sun Jin Woo doing this? As basically, no, it's chaos. Chaos is basically just laughing at this. Jin's just like, what are you trying to do? Bring them all there? He goes like, yes. Yes, I am. As Jin's just like, he's gonna basically not be able to, well, survive that long. It's like, the kid has guns. Let him kill them all. He'll upgrade real quick. He just kind of thinks, I'm like, true. So, basically, yeah, Shoutir, Albedo, and Nave/Narble get sucked in, which Chaos is like, and I also want them to get into this. Which Jin just kind of just sighs to like figure as much, which, yeah, all the guys are just looking at this, but like, interesting moment. Which Luna is actually kind of worried. So, when I see them just going to the port, I'm like, you know what? Ugh. Okay, whoever's doing this, who cares? Gotta basically keep them safe. As I basically just jump into the portal, and then I just realized, wait, keep them safe. That was a stupid thing from me. They could basically keep themselves safe. So, I did not know what the key status is, but I basically land in there. Essentially, it's like we're on the same floor of the dungeon. But the thing is, it's a lot more twisted slash a lot more levels to it on this one floor. I'm like, okay, Abeto, Shoutir, Narble. Basically, they basically all pop up out of basically different areas. They're like, we're here. What happened? I'm like, well, allow me to explain. So I basically told them about solo leveling and the key from basically the system, who basically is now the system being controlled by Sun Jin Woo, who gave me it. So basically, I was just saying, so we're basically in a basically dungeon, random generated by key, basically from the system, but it basically took the place of the dungeon that we were already in. So isn't it like a double dungeon? Like, sort of, but B rank to a C rank, well, E to C basically shouldn't be like this unless it's a B, I guess. But if it's an A to S, then as I just realized, I'm like, oh crap. So basically, I literally go into the communication system. I'm like, Jen, did you basically upgrade the key without me knowing? Basically, basically about Shatier and Norble see the system, and they come around to the chat, and it basically just goes, yes, it's an A to S rank. Have fun and don't die. That's all Jin just says. I'm like, you son of a. You know what? Fuck it. Let's go. I did. I just take out basically the pistols. I'm like, I'm not strong enough to handle an A to S rank, but hopefully these things can kill it. But as I switch over to Castle and Jackal from Alucard, I'm like, alright, you think you guys can actually handle this? Which they do not. And let's just say this. A couple of monsters, basically, I want to say like lizard-like dragons / insects and basically fish are coming out of nowhere. And like, okay, we have flying fish, we have insects, and we have lizard-like dragons. Alright then, let's kill them all! As basically, yeah. Kill them all, get some unique items, leveling up. Nothing really much happens besides that. So, I'm gonna say this, by the time we were basically getting to the actual boss room, it did take quite a bit of time. And it was a pain. Oh, and by the way, it's the gods who basically were watching me, that basically doing, trying to basically add some stuff to Overlord's world, are watching, but then also the other gods from basically Damanchi are watching this. Or at least knowing about it, or at least someone is. Honestly, in truth, I kind of forgot, like, how it is to get, like, level 2. It's like you have to basically kill enough monsters to then basically get, like, an overwhelming, basically, power base that's stored until you basically, like, desire something basically to basically upgrade yourself to level 2. It's not the gods who basically, choose it, but, I'm gonna say it's like, the other gods are basically watching because the ones that, basically the ones that basically are trying to basically have stuff happen, and basically Overlord are letting them watch it, which they're like just all shocked, because basically like halfway through, I was able to basically start using daggers, and the sword, and arrows, not just the pistols. So, yeah, so I was level 30. Since I was in this A to S rank dungeon, double dungeon, it's basically, I would say I'm almost to 200, like 190. So just give me a minute. Okay, so here's the thing. I basically did this. Okay, so basically I did it by seeing how many points I have. Basically, I went up 160 times in levels. And so I did basically 160 times 3. Basically, I put all the points into intelligence and to sense, which basically gave me 1,720 in intelligence, and then sense 1,388. So yeah, and it basically went progressionally up to lizard type dragon monsters, bug monsters, then like flying like fish type monsters to basically be more like basically more dragons. So in a sense, it went to make some more dragon like monsters. So basically, I basically get the title Dragon Slayer. In which basically we're kind of like at like the last flourish. I'm like, hey, are you guys alright? Which basically just kind of like they're all just like sigh and be like, yeah, we're fine. We're a little bit hurt, but that's all. Basically, kind of just like nod. Which Battle's like, do you have to deal with this all the time? Like, not always. But this is gonna happen more often, probably. Which she's asking, like, huh? I was like, I'll explain later. I'll just show you it later. In which, most Sheltier's like, Zero, are you fine? You've been taking a lot more hits for us. Like, yeah, I'm fine. The regeneration does kick in faster and I don't get killed. As long as it's a non-lethal hit, I'm fine. Besides, I've been able to use the Shadow Rush easily and being able to use the sword to attack the dragons. Which basically Narble says, by the way, why did your fist suddenly go on fire and you said Dragon Slayer, basically, yeah, Fire Fist, something like that. She goes, oh. Basically, Fire Dragon Iron Fist. She goes, yes, that. I kind of basically just gave myself that power. Which basically, Abel was like, wait, what? I'm like, okay, fine. Anything I know from basically any anime, video game, manga, TV show, movie, cartoon, basically, I can basically get the powers of. So basically, shout to your like. So that means every power that I have is something I already know of. So the whole entire Dragon Slayer magic. Yep, I already know of it. She goes, where's it from? An anime called Fairy Tail. So can we watch it later? It's like, I just look at Sheltier and I'm like, sure. Which basically I was just looking at me like, so that means you. Wait. These powers are. I mean, I don't understand. She goes, basically, like, let's just say this. They can affect me physically, but not mentally. I get the powers and such, but I don't get the personalities. So then Nave or Narble will just say this. So that means the powers you have, obviously already you knew of, but does that mean basically you also could change physically because of that transformation you have? Like, smart. Yeah. That transformation had that looks more demonic. If you probably saw during the fight, right? From Sheltier. Sheltier basically just says, yes, I was wondering about that too. It's like, well, that's from a video game called DMC. She goes, huh? Devil May Cry series. I'll explain that later, but let's just say this. There were two brothers, Dante and Virgil. A father called, their father called Sparta was a demon, while their mother was a human or an angel named Eve. So, well, Eve or Eva, whatever how you pronounce it. Which you like, so a Nephilim, I bet it was saying, like, yep. Those are the demon forms. The one I went into was basically Virgil's. I can go into Dante's and Virgil's demon forms. Depends on the blade I'm using. But for right now, As I'm just looking at basically the floor going down, like, I can already tell this boss is gonna be dangerous. Well, or something's gonna be dangerous. So, let's just hope it ain't something too, no, something that ain't basically that much a problem. Which out here just nods. Basically goes like, so, are you going to, in a sense, I'm like, well, at this point in time, I need more strength and basically more power. So, as I basically go into the skills, and I literally say Asura's Wrath. In which basically all of a sudden, basically everything from Asura's Wrath appears. Which is just Asura's basically skill tree. In which, yeah, I get everything I can. Basically, to the point where it's basically secret skill mantra. Well, it's like mantra core. Basically, it just says, due to not being like Asura, you're not basically. Hold up. As I was saying, due to you not being like Asura, which you do not have a mantra reactor, mantra is basically natural produced from you. This basically means you have an unlimited amount of mantra. As I'm just like, huh. So, well, that's great. Which basically, I bet I was like, I guess you feel different. And like, huh? Great, tell. Basically, Shouts just nods like, yes, your strength and power increased. Basically, Nabe/Narble asks, what did you do? He was like, gain the power of a demigod. Well, at least a god, basically, that can kill other gods. Which I'm just walking down, which their eyes widen. As I literally just say, I gotta basically have some restrictions. So, for now, though, I need to have this. So, yeah, when we basically get down to the floor, basically have the daggers out. Basically, I only have, like, one set of dagger. And I have a regular dagger. The one that can infinite grow, the infinite blades out. Which, it doesn't really matter if it goes into the Barak B serpent dagger. Because it's like, it still has the runes on it, so it's still upgrade stuff. Well, still get stronger, so basically, we're just like sort of going through it, and I'm basically wondering, okay, what the? So we kind of see there's like a pathway and there's like water. As I'm thinking to myself, okay, no, nope, please no water monster, no kraken, nothing, please. As in, when we get into the center of it, basically I'm like, there's no monster here. Basically, Shallowtear's like, this is strange. Isn't a monster supposed to be shown? I'm like, yeah. But there's water, so we have to face it against a water type monster. As in all of a sudden, yeah, I was right. So basically a big giant, not kraken or basically squid or basically, it'll be more like, I would say basically water. I mean, basically a water type serpent that's, well, serpent like dragon. As I just look at us, I'm like, okay, let's do this. I basically, I'm getting ready, they all getting ready. As basically Shoutir, well, basically Albedo, Narble are doing basically their buff magics on each one of us. As then basically Shoutir also uses what gets into her gets into her armor stuff, basically, and well, I basically say, alright, I'll try to get closer and also beside cover. Albedo, if you can get up close, basically try to, up close and try to hit it down to basically Narble. Basically, Narble, you try to use a little electric type magic on it. Alright? Basically, I just hear them both saying yes to that. They say, look at Shoutir. I'm like, Shoutir, if you guys can use basically household and have your basically, have your basically monsters basically keep it at bay. Well, your shadow monsters that you're keeping it distracted and such, while I'm basically also trying to hit it. But she goes on it, so basically she activates household. Basically, the bat types ones are going near it as it does distract. As I just say, alright, let's do it! So I just run forward, using sonic speed, which Albedo you know, does get her wings and fly over, hitting the thing as I say I'm like using basically Shadow Rush, which basically multiple, attacks are being hit at it. Basically I do kick it over to basically Nave. As basically Nave uses, basically well twin dragon maximized magic as it hits it. Basically Shadow Tear goes over and hits it with, her basically spear that, basically will heal her. And then she would use one of her spells, basically the Holy Spirit throws it at it, it hits it. So yeah, this goes on for quite a bit, even basically taking out an arrow, shooting it, basically as it gets wrapped in shadow rope, as basically, getting out the sword and legit, using basically Zangetsu, slashing at it, basically. And then, as basically, it's not causing that much of a trouble, as I basically do yell out, "Get to the Tensho!" And, make that slash. It goes right through the beast. Basically, not causing any trouble, as it's just there. Basically, I think I would have basically at least took a couple of monsters, basically, some things from it. Well, some of the monsters down there from the whole entire... I'm trying to think of what type of basically monsters I would have basically, taken from. I think I would have done it from first, because I would be more focused on killing them and basically going down to the floor and, getting stronger. So I think basically by the time we got to the more dragon-like monsters, because there'll be different types like fire and ice ones, I'll be, would have used Predator and ate them. So basically this dragon-like one, this is a serpent-like one, basically, it would have water. It would have done a few water attacks, even basically have used the water surrounded to cover itself in it, which was, to make a water-like armor, which was a pain. That's why I would have used the shadow arrow to basically wrap it around. So yeah, so basically after we killed it, basically ate it with Predator, get the skills and such, and then I'm huh? I didn't level up yet? Huh. I see, I'm that close. I'm a few inches to leveling up to at least level 91. Which I just chuckle at that. So I basically look at, Albedo, Shalatir, and Narbal. I'm like, well, that was interesting. Which they nod. So the thing is, though, all of a sudden another pathway opens. I'm like, well, it should have been broken. Well, I should have been able to leave. Which they say, what's wrong? They're like, well, this was an 8 to S rank, so it's a double dungeon. Come on. So basically, we do enter the new one, and then when we basically get down there, it's just like a normal flat area, basically like cave. As then we basically see something, basically sleeping. Basically, I'm like, wait, I see something sleeping and moving. So what I would see is something basically black scales. I'm like, no way. Did Jin literally... This is the black dragon that basically is one of the monsters that the adventurers are trying to kill. The Zeus familiar couldn't kill. Which, basically, Veto was like, huh? Don't worry about it yet. I can explain that later or when it's needed. Well, Shalatir's like, so are we supposed to kill this scene? I basically probably. This may be a tough one. You guys may need to basically stay out of this. Which Shalatir's like, why? Whole entire Familia couldn't have killed it. But Zeus couldn't use his power. But I can. Which Shalatir's is looking at me with a little bit worried Narbol, basically that'll be suicide, even stupid for you. Which Albedo would agree, which I'm just sighing. I'm like, true, but first. Basically I say perfect copy. There's also another version of it is basically already created, as then all of a sudden, I basically use Predator and basically devour it whole. Which, the perfect copy was about to scream and such, but it just already gets devoured. As I get a few skills called immune to fire, immunity. Well, no, basically immunity to most basic elements. Basically, I honestly do not know what the Black Dragon's like. Has attacks, but I would say probably if you like basically harden basically scales or body, and basically a bigger destruction fire blast, like basically able to control flames or something. Like I don't really know. Hold up, I'll double check. Okay, so I do not know. I could not find anything. So if anyone can basically tell me about that, that'd be great. But basically, I'm just gonna make up my own skills and basically control over flames. Basically, like So even though I already have basically that from basically Infrid, I think, but still, this is different though. Basically, I kind of look at the skill though real quick, and I basically just see it. Basically, it means I can control them over to my weapons, just like Infrid, but it has way more of a basically destructive power of basically any type of enemy that isn't draconic. Even though some draconic monsters basically are immune to fire, this one basically has absolute basically kill. Yes, I do look at it basically my solo leveling because then I just noticed just by me eating the black dragon, I basically go up from 190 to 240. What up? Okay, so I went up to basically 50 level. I mean, to 50 levels, and basically from Asura, Seraph, and then I also basically had the points in. So basically, my strength because of Asura's Wrath, 2,990, agility 2,000. Wait, and I also basically put points in it, at least 100. So 2,990 cents, at least 50. 200, 907. I mean 27 because Asura, also on it because it's battle sense, vitality. It's 400 Asura. I mean, that dude comes back from life and death. Like, come on. He's really hard to kill. So basically, intelligence, just a little bit more. 2,972. So yeah. Let me just I need to basically add more. I forgot to basically add some stuff into the HP and MP. So give me a minute. Okay, so just add some more to it. So basically, what happens next is this. Basically, I kind of just like, hey, Grey Sage, is there basically the core for the beast? Which basically Grey Sage, correct? I mean, basically, analysis. The core, basically, the crystal was basically already eaten when you use Predator. Recommendation: kill the beast and then basically put it into your storage in your ring. Like, alright. Well, very have to have actually two of them. So I used Perfect Copy again. And immediately, basically, I kind of just sigh for a bit. I basically take out, Zangetsu. Basically, all of a sudden, when I open up my eyes, black flames are basically coming off of Zangetsu. And like, are you ready? And both Zangetsu is basically like, yeah! And I just basically pull up, basically gets a whole bunch of spiritual pressure. As both of the basically beasts are waking up, I go, get to the Tensho! As they just slash down. And basically the Getsu Tensho is a mixture between the actual fire from the Black Dragon plus basically spiritual pressure. So it literally kills the second Black Dragon, and I immediately eat basically. Not yet. I mean, I immediately have the core get stored away. Basically, all of a sudden, I make multiple Shadow clones, which is basically like 50. At least 40 of them basically are going to go over to fight it, while 10 of them basically defend Shoutir, Narble, and basically Nave. Well Narble and Shoutir and Abedo. And so each clone is basically hitting it. There's like a massive amount of shockwaves, which they're screaming out in pain. It basically does use this claw to basically cut right through them and stuff. And every time I'm like, alright then, let's do this. So basically, just run over to it. And yeah, I do see some clothes that are actually using basically alchemy to use them in terrain to basically to head it. Others are basically, using Virgil's / Dante's, Alucard basically, like guns and stuff. It's doing some damage. basically they are getting wiped out pretty quickly, being dead and poofing away, which I'm like saying, okay, so each attack is strong. So what I have to do is get angry, get stronger, and if I do basically I'm going to die, well, at least take this fucking lizard with me. So basically when it finally notices me, it looks over, and I'm already swinging my fist, and when I punch it, its face goes flying into the wall. Basically, I'm like thinking to myself, okay, yeah, also was a good choice. As all of a sudden I just shoot out basically energy blast and mantra, hitting it basically as it, screeches out in pain. Immediately, basically run over to it, grab its leg and throws it away, and then basically all of a sudden going to double trigger, basically Dante's, basically, and legit having the sword on fire to run over to the beast, over to the black dragon, as it basically gets all up and basically fires a fire blast at me as I cut right through it, and then literally kick the beast, side, and when it basically just slides a little bit, just like then throw the blade at it, piercing its basically right. Basically, you can see leg, front right leg, as it screech out in pain. As I literally go to it, the blade, and just literally throw. Basically, I would think of a memory that would basically at least get me angry, and legit punch basically where the grip is, at least the butt of the sword, handle, and you know what I mean. Basically, just punch basically the blade further into the beast, at least going right through it. As basically all can just go appear around the other side of the blade, and literally just says, "Now die," and just do a whole entire basically swing. As I literally am just trying to cut right through basically the black dragon, from its like chest area all the way up to its like back where the neck was. And I would say because the black flames will probably be still on it, and basically just doing that, it would have basically have cut right into it, but not kill it. As basically I would think it's dead, as it's not changing into a crystal. I'm like, huh? As I get side swipe with the tail, sent flying into basically that wall. As basically I would hear basically three girls basically just scream out zero. As I'm just thinking to myself, okay, that hurts. I look at my health and I'm like, let's see, huh? How am I not? You know what? As I just pull myself out of the wall, as I do see my arms are technically legit, basically like get like the silver on it, sort of. As then I just think of, actually, let's just try this one thing. As I literally go into Yu Yu Hakusho. If you guys do not know, that's a really good anime. I recommend it. I just don't own none of it. As I literally go into Hiei skill tree, and I'm like, yeah, we're doing this. Black Dragon, meet me another Black Dragon. So basically, all of a sudden, I get all of Hiei's skills. So basically, I become half fire and half ice, where I become immune to it. Basically, I get all Hiei's skills, even the Dragon Eye. As in, I won't use it that much. But basically, here's what happens. Basically, all of a sudden, I get this Black Dragon mark tattoo on my right arm. As in, all of a sudden, I'm really just getting up. I'm like, okay, let's combine this. As all of a sudden, I'm legit basically holding my hand out. As it's like becoming, basically, black flames disappear on it. As I would say, like the ground is at least, or some like at least the room is starting to rumble because the power's being released. As it's basically combined with mantra and the black flames from the black dragon. As legit, I was just thinking, okay, this may break the system, but if this is basically from the solo leveling system, it should be able to handle this. As then all of a sudden I do get the marks of Oster because I'm, for invincibility frame. As basically the black dragon just screeches out to me, basically fires its fire breath at me, as I literally say, "Dragon of the darkness, flame!" As I literally just punch forward, as they basically get, Shaltir, Albedo, and Narble just see this black dragon coming off my arm as it just launches forward to basically through the black dragon's fire as it legit goes right to it and killing it, basically leaving the crystal intact, but also like destroys the back of the wall, going right through it, leaving a whole bunch of destruction to just stop it. And basically, I'm like, as my arm is burning, as in healing factors kicking in, and I'm like, okay, that hurts a lot. But was it worth it? Yes. I was not gonna have to fight this beast and get near death. So, basically, I would technically get the Asura's, like I said, Asura's like silver on his arms, but it at least looks like it's normal, just a little more tanner. With the whole entire dragon tattoo, I would technically need to wrap it, but put this sleeve. Basically, it would also be like, oh man, my basically sleeve is burnt, as then it just regenerates. I'm like, that works. So yeah, hold up. So basically, I go over to the second into the dragon crystal, and I basically was just like, sweet, I get to, as then also it just crumbles away, and I'm like, no! Why did it have to? And I just see loot. I'm like, ooh, loot! Just ignore the fact that I want to get a second one, as I basically see the loot. And so I'm like, okay, black dragon armor, check. Basically, revival potions, sweet. Cool. An actual dragon bow, even the sheath. I mean, basically, arrows and quiver, basically cool. And wow. I mean, there's like a couple of freaking armors here. Oh my, this is S rank armor. They look like they're for. Okay, we've got 1 male's and 3 women's. Even basically different weapons. I mean, technically it's a big giant crystal, so. And it's shattered, so basically. They sound like, Albedo, Shaltir, Narble, I got you guys weapons and armor. So basically, there's like, the clones did basically poof themselves as they walk over to see the armor and such. It just looks like regular clothing-ish, but just like. But it looks like basically lightweight armor. I think they just, they just grab it like, should we put it on? Like, not yet. I'll put it in my storage and we can basically put it on when we get back to the Hestia Familia. Well, back to, Hestia's home. Which they just nod and I put it in the storage, but I say, keep the weapons. So, Abel gets a black dragon axe. Nave gets a black dragon sword. Shaltir gets a black dragon spear. Basically. And by the way, you were asking why if you guys are wondering, okay, they could have handled it. To be fair, this is one of the 3 quest monsters. Basically, Sun Jin Woo did, in fact, copy the freaking monster from the quest and literally just put it here. So basically, a whole entire familia couldn't kill it. No offense to max level, well, basically to 200, 2 level 100s and 1 level 80, basically NPC, couldn't kill this thing. Because we're in the Manchi, so their basically logic doesn't really work with it. The reason why is I could kill it is because I have the solar leveling system, and the fact is, so, yeah. So basically, they keep that. I basically get the Black Dragon's, bow, and then I kind of see, Black Dragon, a dagger. Basically, I look at it, I'm like, Dragon's dagger. Nice. Basically, I kind of put the other one, the normal one, into the inventory, the solo leveling, and I kind of basically see one more item. I'm like, okay, Dragon's mask. It's just like, it looks like a normal freaking mask that I could just put over my face. Like, one of those, it basically looks like from, hold up. I need to try to think of the name. Okay, I just remember the name I was trying to think of. Basically, Ghost of Tsushima. You know when basically you get those masks, basically. Yeah, it looks like that, but it just like it looks like a dragon mouth, basically, in a sort of way. As I'm like put it on, I'm like, how do I look? Hey, say, any good? Does it give me any fast? I'm like, yeah, gives me some. Hmm. Wow, gives me more resist. It gives me a lot more like immunities. Sweet. Yeah. Well, I mean, basically, Shadow's like, that's good. I'm like, yeah. You know, I already have a lot. Like, oh yeah, I forgot to. Right. So basically, after that, though, there's still some more gear. I just need to think of it. I just need to think of like not gear. I just need to think of more items. Basically, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think like, couldn't it be like more than one dragon sword? But that doesn't really matter. So I would say that all of a sudden the gate is basically like going down. I mean, basically stop working. Well, basically the dungeon is basically just going back to where just like we're actually in the dungeon of Damanchi. Like, even though we didn't basically get that much stuff, let's get out of here. I'm tired. As they basically all three of them just nod. So we get our follows and we get back to Hestia. As I see Bella was like, "Hey guys, what happened to you guys? I didn't see you guys on the way back." I'm like, we were dealing with some stuff. It's already nighttime. I'm too tired." As I just like get the gear that basically they got, I'm like, "Here you go." Basically, they're like, "Thanks." Basically, I got my own dragon armor. I'm like, putting this in my room. Basically, go and put over. They put in their stuff in their room. As they say, when we come back, Hestia asks, "What happened to you guys?" I'm like, "Sun Jin Woo." Her eye, basically, Hestia's eyes widen. And she goes like, "Dungeon, double dungeon." She basically pats my shoulder, like, "What did he do? He copied the freaking the basically one of the quests, one of the great quest monsters." Where she goes, "Okay, what was it?" I'm like, "The Blood Dragon," in which Belle's even in shock. Yeah, here's the thing, I got its core, I think. Or I could have basically just got the core but it'll shatter. Hopefully it's actually the core. I'm hoping for it, I say. Because I really could basically get a lot of money for that. As I say, Hestia is like, alright, let's go out and see. Easily, I basically bring it out and then I legit just like touch it. Nothing happens. I'm like, yes! Finally! Whoo! Well, not finally. Yes! We can make some good weapons or materials out of this, hopefully. I'm like, huh? I'm like, this is from the Blood Dragon. You don't think we can make anything with it? Which, she goes, no. We're like, well, let's have to figure out what. Maybe I could use this for my own alchemy lab when I get back to my place. Who knows? Yeah, I can make my own little, familiar with it. At least. Or basically, then I think at least one Shaltir can actually have someone by her side to also protect her. That'd be nice. So yeah. So it goes back into my, inventory as everyone looking at Jin. As Jin just basically like looking at basically Jin just looking at me like, what? He was like, you have to do that. He goes, yes. I mean, helping get another rank in basically the becoming a hero. Not like basically a true hero basically. Which they kind of decide to be like, for next step at Gates of Babylon. And Jin just nods. So, basically, Hestia did see the fight and stuff, but Belle did not know since he was in the dungeon. She stopped watching it afterwards, so she only saw basically the water dragon, not the whole entire black dragon. Every god in Demon, she'd just be like, he killed it, but it wasn't it. So, I think they would go to Orion, and he would say the black dragon still exists. Sun Jin Woo, basically. They basically didn't know about it, so he basically would be explaining Sun Jin Woo with systems like basically a different sort of world from it. So like, oh, so not really the Black Dragon, he just copied it. So yeah. So when Hestia basically looks at our, stats, basically, for me, strength was in 200, endurance and dexterity were in 200. Well, no, not 200, to like 300. Just got into 300, so like 320. Agility 300 and basically 30. Magic at least 2009, like 990. Strength was like, even though it's like 1749 right now, it became like fudging like 2009, well, 2999. I mean, we basically faced against the Black Dragon that was a copy of it, so yeah, I'm gonna do some stuff real quick. Okay, so in a sense, yeah, after Hestia looks at our stats, we all got to level 2 and they all became 0. Which, that was actually kind of a shocker to us, and, you know, Hestia, and even Belle, which, she goes like, and then I kind of just like, can we not tell the guild about this? She's like, we can hold off on it. Why? He goes like, because I want to make it where it happens like later. So she just kind of decides, we're like, alright, well, let's all get some sleep then. I mean, well, technically you guys are probably hungry and tired. I'm like, yeah, thanks, Hestia. So we kind of eat and just sleep. And that's where I'm going to end it off, everyone. You guys have a nice day and night, wherever you are, and bye.